Hello, welcome back to another drawing workshop. If you were with us last week, we were doing hands, and it was kind of a learning together sort of thing because, full disclosure, hands are really hard. So I thought I would continue doing things that are a little bit tricky for all of us, including me. And this week we're going to do feet. We're going to try feet. Until this point, on all of the figures, I've been doing just sort of a little triangle, like that. Oh, see that? As a very rudimentary foot. But this week we're going to get into more of the anatomy and making feet flexible, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can put a shoe on them, because I think, you want to be able to be versatile. Not everyone can just be barefoot and fancy-free. All right. So let's get into it. And actually, fortunately, what we're going to start with is that little triangle shape that I started with, and we're going to actually fill that with shapes, and that'll show you how it can be more flexible and how you can, place the toes and eventually fit a shoe on it. Okay. To do that, I'm going to go a little bit bigger. So we're going to start from a inside side view of the foot. So we're going to be looking at the arch. So you'll be able to see the anatomy a little bit better. Okay. I talk too much. All right. First things first, I think it's easiest to draw a foot when you start with the heel, obviously, because that'll probably be connected up to whatever leg you have drawn. So let's just put that. That's going to be the end of that little tapered cylinder. I don't know if you remember that, but you can go back and look at the limbs video, and that's where I talk about all these tapered cylinders. That is just the end of one. So then we have this ball here that is going to be the heel, and we're going to draw lines around it. So this is just a guideline. This isn't going to be your final shape here. Okay, so you have the ball here, and because the foot is going to be on the ground, we're going to flatten out the bottom a little bit. So I'm going kind of beneath it, and then we're drawing this sort of squished corner. So imagine you have a very squishy ball and you press it on the floor, you're going to have a flatter shape on the bottom. Okay? Okay. All right. Now, if you remember our little triangle, boop, we're going to fill in with the ball of the foot, and that's going to be kind of a little, I'm going to say an egg shape. Egg shape's good. And when you do an egg shape, you're going to notice that connecting these two up is not a straight line anymore. It's a line that curves. So it's a little bit of a curve because feet are very springy. So you got to have curves in there to give it some momentum. And on the bottom of the foot, there's going to be the same sort of curve. So you see from the bottom of this flattened pad, curve it down to connect up with your little egg. That is the ball of the foot. So that's the inner arch of the foot there, see? All right. And now to add toes, we're going to do another little oval, and this one's more of an oval, less of an egg, right? And to get from this egg, so the curve comes down and then it really flattens out because, again, the toes are pressing down and they have kind of a flat top to them. And then the bottom is again curved because the bottom of your toes does not touch the floor. Usually. I mean, we're going to work on a lot of usuallys here. Okay, so that is the general outer shape of your foot. And then you want to remember ankle bones, which are actually kind of in the middle here. So there's going to be a little circle up here. You're not going to draw the whole thing, but you're going to draw a line that kind of comes around and then heads straight up. So a lot of this anatomy, the surface anatomy, as we're going to call it here, is tendons. This is a bit of bone. There's some muscle in here, but a lot of it is kind of hard tendony shapes. So there's not a whole lot of squish going on here, which sometimes is good because it makes it easier to see the shapes of the foot as they bend. Okay, so there's the side of your foot. And if you remember these shapes here, kind of these guys, you can draw the foot from a lot of angles. So we're going to go from the back now, okay? Start over here, so leave myself room. So again, we're going to start with the heel. How many times am I going to go around the circle? I don't know. Okay. Here's your ankle. And here's where we remember that we're doing tendons, okay? So we have the ankle bones here. Pro tip, when you're drawing the bumps of the ankle bone and both are visible, it is fun to remember. Inner, let's see, inner, higher, outer, lower. So the inside of the foot, the ankle bone is a wee bit higher. Outside of the foot, it's a wee bit lower. So just match the vowels and you are on the right track. Okay, so now, tendon. So the actual heel is connected up to this tendon in the back that obviously does not span the entire width of the ankle. So you have these two little parallel lines that then fan out. And then you have the pad of the foot there, and it's going to be that same kind of flattened shape. Okay, so on the inside of the foot, you have your big toe. And so this kind of flattens out and tilts down to your smaller toes, right? Okay. So you have your heel here. You have your big toe and smaller toes. So now you're going to kind of erase your guidelines because that's messy. All right, so you're seeing the heel. And then you're seeing the ball of the foot as it's squished out. So this is all about layering, and I talked about foreshortening a little bit in the last video. It's essentially what we're doing in a very extreme case here because you mostly see these lines lined up here. So you're not actually going to see individual toes too much. That's okay. You don't want to complicate your drawing too much. And there you go. So that's kind of the back of the foot there, right? Okay. All right. Front of the foot. This will make a little bit more sense. So again, we're starting with that ball that is the heel. Ankle comes down and joins it. Inner higher, outer lower. Okay. All right, so now we're drawing the ball of the foot, and you remember how I kind of had it slanting off to the side. So this is the inside of the foot, so this is where it's going to be a little bit higher. And it's like a really extremely squashed egg, so like half an egg. We'll call it half an egg. That's even a little bit too high, I'm sorry. Tapers down to your little toes. Okay, so you have the heel kind of poking out here. I'm using a thicker pencil today, so I apologize, it's a little bit darker. So I'm erasing a lot more than I usually do. All right, so you have your heel, you have the ball of your foot, and now you're going to have these kind of squashed ovals that are going to be toes. Actually, the most squashed one is going to be the big toe because that's actually where you have a lot of your weight put. And then I'm going to do circles for your little toes, right? So this is just the front of your little toes, but then remember that they do join up. So I'm going to draw a little kind of horseshoe shape over the top of them to give them some dimension here. Let me shade it in so you can see it. Same thing here. Right? Okay. So there's your toes. Boop. And then you got that squashed egg. Okay. And remember that connecting the ball of the foot up here, it kind of connects, it's not as wide as your heel, so it's going to connect up there. So if you want to help your anatomy out a little bit, it's kind of like a receding rectangle. So like a rectangle in perspective, like that. So that's going to be kind of the bridge of your foot connected up to the ball of your foot right there. So that's the shape you're putting in. Okay. Doop. All right. So that is your foot from the front, and then again, kind of erasing your guidelines. And again, this pencil, my goodness. It's doing work today. Okay, so those are kind of the common angles you get when you want to move the foot around. You move them around. So say you have a foot that is pointing like a ballerina. Whenever you have a flex, remember to put in like a little wrinkle here. And since your foot spends so much time on the floor, your heel never really rounds out. It's always going to have that little kind of squash bit on it. So really round heels are not common. Okay, that's your egg, and there's your toes. Another good thing to do here is find some reference and trace over the top. And you see that little arch there, like I was talking about here, slightly arched, especially when you're flexing, you're going to have that stick out a little bit more. Okay, so that's a pretty good foot. So now I'm going to talk about putting shoes on feet, right? This differs a whole lot. So if you have a shoe with a really flexible sole, it's really going to depend like the kind of sole you have on the shoe and then the kind of attachment the shoe has to your foot, right? So if I was going to put a ballet flat, let's say, a flat on the shoe, they have pretty flexible soles, right? And you want to make sure that the sole is a little bit bigger than the foot because you want room. And then you can just kind of draw the shape of the foot. I need a smaller eraser. There we go. Let's lighten that up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so you see I've drawn this line around the guidelines of the foot. And then it comes out a little bit from the back. And you have the flexible sole here. Right? If you have a foot with an not flexible sole, inflexible sole, you're going to draw the foot as normal, but the sole of the shoe is going to prevent the foot from bending that much. So if you were, say, wearing combat boots, they're going to keep your foot pretty straight. See that? The sole of that boot is not going to move. It's very sturdy, and I recommend draw the sole first. So the heel of a shoe is usually going to end right about at the arch, and then it's going to meet back up. And oftentimes, to help with walking, the front of a sole is going to be curved upwards to help you kind of rock, help you rock out. Okay, so then you're going to have a lot of toe room, especially if it's a work boot or a boot with a steel toe on it. It's going to be well above your little toes to protect them. And the heel's going to come out, and we're going to draw a stiff line there. Do that little loop. So you see that this is kind of the same gesture, but instead of bending the toe, instead of all the weight being on the toe here, the weight's going to be held up by the shoe. So the shoe's not going to move a whole lot. It's going to take that weight for you. So then I'm going to draw in some laces. That's really lazy, but there you go. And then typically shoes do this. So you have like that in the back there. I'm going to darken those up so I can shade it in. Bam, there you go. And then you color in your sole with whatever. So as you can see, the type of shoe depends on the flexibility of the foot depends on the type of shoe. If you're doing, say, a shoe that is not very attached, then you can get a lot of flexibility. So you see how I have the toes flexed way up here. All right, sole of the foot. Standing up on tiptoes, and now I'm going to do like a flip-flop. So the flip-flop is only attached in the front, so you're actually going to leave the sole on the ground when you do that. Or it's going to pop up just a little bit if the sole is a little bit more flexible there, right? Same thing let's see, not so much with heels. So if you're going to do a heel, actually, I was going to show you popping out of a heel, but we all know the pain of that, don't we? Anyone who wears high heels. Okay. If you have a high heel, the sole is actually going to be molded to this shape here. So we're going to draw the sole on, and then the heel comes down like that, and it hopefully reaches the floor. This looks like a very uncomfortable heel. So as you can see, this kind of forces your foot into this position all day. It's terrible. So you're going to have a bump on the front, crease in the back, bone there, and that is how that works, and probably is attached to your foot in some way. There we go. Strap on the back, strap there. So there you go. That is typically how shoes and feet interact. So there you go, kind of crash course in feet. Obviously in a drawing kind of more from a distance, you're not going to be putting that much detail into it, but if you keep those three shapes, you can really draw feet doing a lot of stuff, toes up. Just kind of remember sketching those shapes so that you at least have kind of the outside shape of your foot doing what it's supposed to do, right? And the angle of the ankle here is usually it's not going to be a really right angle. You're going to have a lot of kind of flex in the bridge of the foot there. So just remember to keep it a wide angle there. And so even from a distance, you can see I've got a pretty realistic looking foot shape there. Other thing to note, your big toe is pretty flexible, and often you leave your little toes on the floor because they're not quite as flexible. So that can be up, and these are kind of keeping your balance there. So that's a good thing to kind of notice about your reference. If you're using reference on feet, that the big toe and the smaller toes are usually going to be doing a couple different things. Big toe is a lot more flexible. These toes can flex, but it's a little less common. So that is your quick tips on how to draw feet. I think we did pretty good today. So hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you've been inspired to look at how you draw feet. I don't know. Yeah, so if you liked this video, you know what to do. Subscribe to the Westland Public Library's YouTube channel. Click the bell for updates, and I will see you next week. Bye.